The wind tastes of dust and endings. 15,000 years ago, on the great mammoth steppe that is slowly becoming a forest, a clan of 23 moves across the cracked earth. They are a line of frayed sinew and focused intent. Their world breached of color by a sun that gives light but little warmth. Hunger is a patient carver, hollowing out the days. Their current foraging strategy a desperate dance between digging for withered roots and chasing fleet-footed prey that is ever more scarce is failing. This is the brutal calculus of prehistoric life. The energy spent must never outweigh the energy gain. For a month, the balance has tipped against them. It is the boy who sees it first. A depression in the hardened mud, too large for any deer, too round for a bear. He grunts, a low note of curiosity, and touches the rim of the print. The lead hunter, a man whose face is a map of near disasters, comes to his side. He kneels, his fingers tracing the ghost of a colossal weight. Others gather, a silent circle of worn skins and worried eyes. Then another print, and another, leading toward the horizon where the sky presses down on the flatland. The treads are not fresh. They are days old, perhaps a week. Their edges softened by the same wind that now chills their skin. A murmur spreads through the clan. No myth. The word is more of a myth now, a story told by the old woman to wide-eyed children around a dwindling fire. They have not tasted its rich, fatty meats since before the last long winter. Most of the younger hunters have only ever seen the bones, white monuments to a bygone age of giants. To follow such a trail is a gamble of insane proportions. It means leaving the meager certainty of their territory for an unknown expanse, chasing a memory that may already be dead and dust. It is a choice between slow starvation here, or a quicker, more definitive end out there, in the open. These early humans understand risk in their bones, and this feels like a path to ruin. The old woman shuffles forward. She is the clan's memory, her mind a repository of seasons and sorrows. She lowers herself with a groan, her knuckles brushing the curve of the track. Her eyes, clouded with cataracts, stare not at the ground, but at the horizon. She remembers the herds. She remembers the earth shaking with their passage, the air thick with the scent of their bodies. She remembers the age of Pleistocene megafauna. With a hand frail but certain, she points, following the path of the tracks. She does not speak. She does not need to. Her gesture is a verdict, a prophecy. To her, this is not a choice. It is the only way. The lead hunter watches her, then looks at the faces around him, the hollow cheeks of his mate, the quiet fear in the boy's eyes. The slow, grinding engine of human evolution has honed the instinct for cooperation, for the hard choice made for the collective. He gives a single, sharp nod. The debate is over. They will walk the trail of ghosts. The days bleed into one another, each dawn a paler shade of the last. The pursuit becomes a pilgrimage into emptiness. The landscape changes, the flat steppe giving way to sparse, skeletal forests of pine and birch, a sign they are moving into a world that is not their own. Here, the tracks of the mammoth are joined by others. The deep, padded prints of a cave lion, fresh and menacingly clear. The predator is also tracking the giant, or perhaps it is tracking them. They are now not only hunters but the hunted. Their own lean bodies a potential meal for a more efficient killer. The silent coordination that has defined these ancient humans for millennia becomes tighter. A web of glances and gestures born from a shared understanding of peril. Every snapped twig, every shadow that moves too fast, sends a ripple of adrenaline through the group. They find her at the edge of a stagnant, reed-choked lake. She is unknown. The rest of the herd, if there ever was one, is gone, succumbed to the journey or scattered by the lion. She is magnificent and terrible, the last monarch of a dying dynasty. Her coat is matted and patchy, her ribs showing like the timbers of a sunken canoe. One tusk is splintered, and she lists to the side, a great mountain of flesh and bones slowly succumbing to gravity on time. But her eyes, small and dark, hold a geological memory. They watch the small, two-legged creatures emerge from the trees with a weariness that has no room for fear. She has been walking toward this moment her entire life. This final confrontation is a microcosm of a much larger story in hominid history. There is no ceremony. There is only the grim business of survival. The hunters fan out. Their movements economical and precise. They work in silence, using antler tines for the final pressure flaking on their flint points, creating edges that can slice through ancient hide. The lead hunter and his brother take the lead positions. He fits the notched end of his spear into the hook of the atlet. A simple but revolutionary piece of primitive technology. It is an extension of his arm. A lever that will turn human weakness into lethal force. The plan is simple. They will bleed her, force her to move, and let exhaustion be their greatest ally. The first spear flies. A whisper of wood and stone. It strikes high on the mammoth's flank. She bellows, a sound of torn earth and outrage, and swings her great head. Another spear hits her shoulder. She turns, clumsy and slow, and takes a step toward the nearest threat, the lead hunter's brother. He stands his ground. A yell. Then, something goes wrong. The soft mud by the lake gives way under the matriarch's charge, and her lumbering turn becomes a terrifyingly swift pivot. She is no longer just a target. She is an avalanche. The brother has no time to retreat. In a heartbeat, he makes a choice. Instead of scrambling away, he shouts, a rough, defiant cry, and lunges forward, driving his own spear into the soft flesh beneath her eye. It is an act of pure, calculated sacrifice. It draws the queen's full attention, giving the others the perfect, terrible opening. As a volley of spears flies from their atlas, the tusk, yellowed and broken, punches through his chest, lifting him from the ground. The great matriarch stumbles, roars, and then, with a shudder that shakes the very soil, she falls. The silence crashes down, heavier than the mammoth's body. For a long moment, no one moves. The air, thick with the coppery scent of blood, is still. The lead hunter walks past the mountain of meat, his prize, and kneels beside his brother. He touches the still warm cheek, his hand coming away smeared with a mixture of dirt and blood. There is no victory here, only a transaction, a life for many lives. This is the unwritten law of their kind. The grim algebra that has allowed Homo sapiens to endure. The cost of protein is measured in blood, and this time, it was the currency of kinship. Then, the clan moves. The grief is a stone in the belly, but hunger is a fire. They descend upon the carcass with a quiet, desperate efficiency honed by generations. It is a masterclass in Paleolithic survival skills. Flint blades, crafted with care just moments before, now work with furious purpose. The hide is peeled back in great, heavy sheets future shelter, clothing, water carriers. Rivers of dark blood are collected in stomachs saved from previous, smaller kills. The meat is sliced away in long strips to be eaten raw, gored upon immediately to replenish their wasted bodies, while larger sections are set aside for smoking over a low, acrid fire. Bones are broken for their marrow, a rich source of fat and energy. Nothing is wasted. This single kill represents a radical, temporary shift in their entire subsistence pattern, a flood of calories after a long drought. As the others work, the lead hunter and the old woman prepare the body of the fallen. They carry him to a shallow overhang of rock, away from the carrion smell. The old woman grinds a lump of soft, red stone into a fine powder. She mixes the ochre with animal fat, creating a thick, earthen paste. The lead hunter paints his brother's body with the red pigment, a silent ritual of memory and meaning that will one day fascinate the scholars of archaeology. It is not a prayer to a god they do not have, but a mark of significance, a statement that this life, this sacrifice, was more than just flesh. He was one of them. He will be remembered. That night, for the first time in months, they are full. The fire roars, fed by rendered mammoth's fat, casting dancing shadows. The children, their bellies round and tight, sleep a deep, untroubled sleep. Yet the adults, chewing on the tough, smoked meat, are quiet. They listen to the wind, but it carries a new sound and profound emptiness, the thunder of the great herds, a sound that has been the pulse of this world for longer than their species has existed. Is gone. They have feasted on a memory. They have survived, but in their victory, they sense an ending far greater than their own. To understand the echo of this silence is to become a chronicler yourself. Find the place below where memory is shared, and add your mark to the stone. The primal fear that settles in their hearts is not of the dark, or the lion, but of a future they cannot yet imagine. A world without giants. The hunt is over. The long walk of prehistory continues. We pull back from the flickering fire, rising above the small band of survivors huddled in the vast, darkening landscape. Their story is not an anomaly. It is a single, poignant verse in the epic of our human ancestors. All across the warming globe, our kind faced the same terrifying calculus as the great beasts vanished. This moment, this feast shadowed by extinction, is the crucible in which the modern human mind was forged. The core principles of anthropology are written here not in textbooks, but in blood, fat, and ochre. It was in these desperate trials that we learned our greatest trick. Not strength, not speed, but radical adaptability. When the world changed, we did not break, we changed with it. Their reliance on each other, their ability to mourn, to plan, to sacrifice a life to save the clan, these are not just quaint artifacts of a bygone era. They are the instincts humming in the bedrock of our DNA, the echoes that built our cities, launched our ships to the stars, and bind us together still. Their brutal world carved the channels through which our own societies flow, and the fundamental question they faced in the silence of a continent remains our own. When the giants we depend on begin to fall, how will we adapt to survive the world we have made? I am the chronicler. We listen for the first stories, told not in words, but in the echoes of a footstep on frozen earth. But what of the worlds that came long before?